A political assassination triggered one of the biggest mass killings in history, the Rwandan Genocide. On April 7, 1994, a government-backed campaign of mass killing started in Rwanda. The aim was the ethnic cleansing of an empowered minority group. Hutu extremists massacred hundreds of thousands of ethnic Tutsi and their Hutu sympathizers. In this episode of Historical Africa, we will briefly cover how the genocide started and look at how Tutsi and Hutu was fostered by colonialism. Within a span of 100 days, at least 900,000 people were killed in the most rapid genocide ever recorded. During this period, 5 people were murdered every minute. Dead bodies were piled up on roadsides as people were persuaded to kill their neighbors. Women were raped and even the lives of children were not spared. The killing spread to all corners of the country and the violence unfolded before the eyes of the international media. This is what so much of Rwanda has been turned into: houses, village deserted, every few yards a dead body, and everywhere the stench of death. The world knew what was happening, but Rwandans were left alone by the international community to face the dark chapter in their history. But the ethnic divide and hatred that fueled the genocide did not come from nowhere. It has its roots in Rwanda's colonial history. Rwanda is a small country in East Africa, was colonized by Germany and Belgium, and then gained independence in 1962. In 1994, its population was estimated at 6 million. 85% was from the Hutu ethnic group, 14% Tutsi, and 1% Twa. Hutus and Tutsi are two distinct ethnic groups, but they have a lot in common. They speak the same language, live in the same areas, and adhere to similar traditions. But disagreements between the majority Hutus and minority Tutsi had grown substantially since the colonial period. When Belgian colonists arrived in 1916, they radicalized the differences between the two groups. They established an official register classifying Rwandans according to their ethnicity and pushed racist theories of the supposed genetic superiority of Tutsi. They classified people according to stereotypical physical features, and everyone was given a racial identity card based on this classification. These pictures of a Belgian specialist in the 1930s shows how craniofacial and body measurements were done to ethnically classify Rwandans. Later, this classification became instrumental in identifying and killing Tutsi during the genocide. The Belgians favored Tutsi and considered them to be closer to Europeans and superior to the Hutus, guaranteeing them better jobs and educational opportunities. This discrimination gradually led to resentment among the Hutus, culminating in a series of riots, killings, and the mass exodus of Tutsi to neighboring countries. After Rwanda independence in 1962, Hutus won the country's first election, reversing the power dynamic. The regime that followed was strictly Hutu nationalist, and in the following decades, periodic violence continued. In 1990, the Rwandan Patriotic Front (RPF), a rebel army mostly comprised by Tutsi exiles, started launching attacks from Uganda with the aim of replacing the Hutu-led government. In 1993, after a period of conflict, a peace accord was signed between Rwandan President Juvenal Habyarimana and the RPF. But the agreement failed to stop the violence as many on both sides disagreed with it. The event of April 6, 1994 ended all peace talks as President Juvenal Habyarimana, a Hutu, was killed when his plane was shot down in Kigali, although responsibility for the attack was never confirmed. Extremist Hutu saw this as an opportunity. The Rwandan Presidential Guard immediately initiated a campaign of retribution. The slaughtering of Tutsi and moderate Hutus began. Extremist Hutus managed to take over key positions of the government and initiate ethnic cleansing throughout Rwanda. Hutu militias known as Interahamwe went to village by village slaughtering Tutsi with guns and machetes. Citizens were encouraged to join, and militias used a radio station to encourage people to go out and kill their neighbors. The human casualties was huge. Bodies lined the street, hundreds of thousands of children were orphaned, and a hunger crisis struck refugees in the displaced camp. The genocide ended with the RPF overthrow of the Hutu regime in July of 1994, but it left a lasting impact that spilled over to neighboring countries. The United States actively discouraged the UN Security Council from authorizing a more robust deployment in April 1994. UN peacekeepers on the ground were reduced to a mere 260 after peacekeepers were killed, and even when the violence escalated, the deployment of further forces was delayed due to US Army resistance. Years after the Rwandan Genocide, former US President Bill Clinton admitted that his failure to act in Rwanda was the biggest regret of his administration, and that if troops were sent to Rwanda sooner, thousands of lives may have been saved. Africans, we must learn to settle disputes without going to war. Once again, it's Yemi Melekaya for Historical Africa. If you have enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like this, kindly help support our growth by liking and sharing this video, and do not forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.